Okay, so let's talk about the third characteristic of anti-dialogical practices. This characteristic is manipulation. So Freire argues that manipulation is done through a series of myths, such as, quote, the model of itself which of the bourgeoisie presents to the people as the possibility for their own assent. In order for the myths to function, however, the people must accept the world of the bourgeoisie. End quote. It's from page 136. So, in other words, the oppressors are presenting a model of the world and are giving paths for which people can ascend through that. But by ascending through it and vilifying and demonizing some people who do not follow the norms, and praising people who do follow the very specific view of the world, we are perpetuating these forms of oppression that I talked about in Chapter 2 and in Chapter 1. So as an example of this in the classroom, so manipulation could be something along the lines of rewarding certain ways of creating in computer science or through coding as a path for ascending in achieving a high grade in the class, or being able to work on more complicated, more interesting assignments, while also penalizing other ways of engaging in computer science or engaging in coding. So another approach for manipulating the oppressed is by giving unauthentic forms of organization that avoid questioning the status quo, but give a sense of power. So as an example of this, it might be like student forms of government. So we have a student president, student vice president, secretary, etc. But the tasks and responsibilities that we give to them avoid questioning the status quo of students in the school, but instead focus on menial things that maintain the power dynamics that are at play. Now, I could also argue that some of the interest-driven practices that I promote could be viewed as a form of manipulation. So, as an example of that, although students are able to choose projects and topics of interest that they can explore through computer science or coding, they are likely forced to participate in such practices and are unable to question such mandates. Among other reasons, this is one of the reasons why I am not actually a fan of mandatory subjects or classes, which I will talk about towards the end of this particular episode. So in other words, even though kids were able to create projects that were interesting to them, they were still required to create a project while engaging in coding practices in the classes that I facilitated. And the reason why is because that's what they received a grade for. And this was imposed upon me by administrators. So I had to give a grade. And it had to be for engaging in coding. I couldn't just say, oh, this kid's a great basketball player, so therefore A+.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 56, which is titled Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Chapter 4. You can listen to the full episode and hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.